So if you don't watch Adapt 2030, David Dubin's videos, you really should. I'll put a link to an interview that he had, really good interview. But he keeps posting this, the collapse of Chinese dynasties, how they coincide with known minimums of the sun, and how they're, at regular intervals and everything. And it got me really thinking about this, and how everything, obviously, with the sun is a cycle. We're all familiar with the 11-year solar cycle, but it's really 22 years. If you have the starting point of today, 11 years from now, it'll go out as far as it can, and then 11 more years, it'll come back to where you are relative. So it's really a 22-year solar cycle. So looking at these, it appears that these are, with the exception of the Southern Song dynasty there, and the Yuan dynasty collapse, and the Wolf minimum, they're about every 220 years. So it would take this current minimum out to 2080, the very bottom peak or trough, I guess, of the upcoming minimum. They line up almost per year. I'm calling the 2080 minimum the observer's minimum. And then you can see 1860, 1640, 1420, 1200, 980. That's as far back as his chart goes. I'm sure if there was more data, more reliable data, 760, 540, 320, and 100 AD, and then 120 BC. So negative number would be BC. We'd see that there will also most likely be, low solar activity, if it were even possible to record it back then, and, issues with civilizations facing hardship. So this is my artistic ability. Hope you like it. But basically, these are gears. All right, so the top left, you have a 22-year gear, right? And for every 10 times that spins, the 220-year cycle spins once. And then again, for every 10 times the 220-year cycle spins, the 2,200-year gear will spin. And then something weird happens. So it goes 10, 10, and then it just doubles. So every 2 times, 2,200 years rolls around. You get the 4,400-year gear to spin. And then the 8,800-year gear spins. And then the 17,600-year gear or cycle spins for every 2 times the 8,000. You see what I'm saying here. So it's like 10, 10, and 2, 2, 2, 2. Which leads me to this. So if we start at the negative, or the 120 BC is from the last video and from other research I've done, that may be the starting point when the sun became the most dominant figure in the sky. And if you go back 2,200 years, that's when maybe Jupiter was the biggest figure. And then it doubles to 4,400 years, 6,700 BC. Ask any Egyptologist and they'll come up with that number. India, China, Golden Age was right then. And then if you double that number, you get the retreat of the ice. We enter Saturn's influence, double that again. The end of the worldwide pyramidal civilization 30,000 years ago or so, and then double that again. It's probably the start of that worldwide civilization. And double that, and then double that, and then double that. It seems like it's gears within gears. And obviously, I don't believe in coincidence. That's not a real thing. So for all these, the minimums and the dynasties to line up, and then what I've been coming to realize with these solar events and the passages from different stars, they seem to line up, pretty close. When you get back 33,000 years ago, obviously it's hard to, plus or minus a couple thousand here and there, but it just seems like it fits right in line with the rest of that stuff. So I don't know if this is like the oscillation of the current, or, just the pulse of our arm of the galaxy, or whatever it is. But it just seems like it's on a regular interval, and we're coming up to, in 2080, it's not just a 220-year cycle or a 22-year cycle, but it's one of the 2,200. So it's a main gear, which could be why it's getting so damn cold so damn early. It's only 2015 and we're 65 years out. From what I'm projecting is going to be the trough in 2080. But again, this is, according to these numbers, that's going to be a major gear, a 2,200-year gear. So maybe that's why it's happening a little early because it's going to be worse than a regular 22 or even a 220-year cycle. It's 10 220-year cycles wrapped up into one. I don't know. Just food for thought. I'm sure there's people out there with much better data and much better research abilities that might be able to go back farther and maybe correlate some earthquakes or volcanoes or what have you, to these numbers. But it looks like the sunspots and the transition between suns matches up pretty nicely.